Imagine a point in the velvet blackness of the southern celestial hemisphere, 48 million light-years from the fragile warmth of our sun. There, nestled within the shifting tides of the sculptor group, lies a stellar anomaly designated as Alpha Tango 66. To a casual observer, it appears as nothing more than a faint prick of light, a solitary spark struggling against the encroaching oblivion. Yet, for those who peer through the glass of our most advanced orbital sentinels, this star represents a fracture in the very foundation of our reality. It is a ghost in the machine of the cosmos, a singular point where the laws of physics seem to have stuttered. In the quiet halls of our observatories, this phenomenon is whispered of as the error in the rendering, a flaw in the majestic tapestry that suggests the universe may not be the seamless, perfect clockwork mechanism we once believed it to be.
Gravitational
The light we receive from Alpha Tango 66 has travelled through the void for eons, carrying with it a message of impossibility. According to every model of stellar evolution, every equation etched into the history of our species, this star should not exist in its current state. Its luminosity fluctuates with a rhythm that defies the inexorable pull of gravity,
breaking apart under
and the
thermal
predictable
stress,
dance
a display that would have looked
fusion.
perfectly normal for an
It is
Oort
as if
cloud
a
comet.
single pixel on a vast cosmic screen has begun to flicker with a colour that does not belong to the known spectrum. This is the scale paradox made manifest, a tiny localized discrepancy that threatens to unravel the entire narrative of the primordial abyss.
More active, sometimes
we find
even
ourselves
fragmenting
staring
under
into the
thermal
abyss,
stress.
and for the first time the abyss is showing us a glitch in its own terrifying perfection. To understand the magnitude of this error, we must use a ladder of abstraction. Think of the universe as a grand, sprawling library containing an infinite number of books, each representing a galaxy, a star, or a human life. We have spent centuries cataloguing these volumes, believing that we understood the grammar and the syntax of the language in which they were written. We assumed that every sentence followed a strict set of rules, a grammar of a light and mass. But in Alpha Tango 66 we have found a typo. It is a word that should not be there, a sentence that contradicts the preceding 10,000 pages. This is not merely a scientific curiosity, it is a fundamental challenge to our place as the witnesses of the cosmos. If the library itself is flawed, if the very ink is beginning to bleed into the paper, then the story we have been telling ourselves about the
Atlas
nature of
has given us
existence
that
may be
gift,
nothing more than
regardless
a beautiful
of whether
delusion.
its trajectory was chosen by
The
alien
ruthless
intelligence
machine of the
or
universe
cosmic
operates
chance.
on the principle of entropy, the slow and steady march toward a cold, silent equilibrium. Every star that ignites is a brief, defiant protest against this decay, a temporary sanctuary of heat and light. Yet, the error in Alpha Tango 66 suggests that the machine is not as precise as we feared. It suggests that within the immense cold gears of the cosmos, there is a certain looseness, a margin of error that allows for the impossible to occur. We see this star not as it is now, but as it was millions of years ago, a remnant of a past that refuses to conform to our understanding of the present. It is a sentinel of the unknown, standing at the edge of the void, mocking our desire for absolute certainty. As we zoom out from this singular point of light, the scale of the catastrophe becomes clear. If one star can defy the laws of the universe, then the entire structure of the cosmos is brought into question. We are forced to confront the possibility that our reality is not a solid, unchanging foundation, but a fluid and perhaps even fragile construction. The vastness of space, which once seemed so permanent and unyielding, now appears as a shimmering veil, prone to tears and ripples that we're only just beginning to perceive. The epoch of human discovery is entering a new, more melancholic phase, where we must accept that our knowledge is limited not just by our technology, but by the inherent inconsistencies of the universe itself. We are the children of this silent, eternal void, born from the remnants of dying stars and the chaotic collisions of the primordial era. Our consciousness is a mirror, held up to a universe that is both magnificent and terrifyingly indifferent. When we look at Alpha Tango 66, we are looking at our own reflection in a cracked glass. The error is not just out there, among the distant galaxies, It is a part of the fabric of our being. We are the products of a system that is capable of mistakes, of deviations from the norm, and perhaps it is within these errors that the true beauty of existence lies.
Atlas has given
Without
us
the
that
glitch,
gift.
without the
Regardless of whether
unexpected
its
flicker in the
trajectory was
darkness,
chosen by
the
alien
universe would be
intelligence
nothing more
or
than a
cosmic
cold,
chance.
deterministic calculation. It is the error that gives the
Moving
symphony
too
its soul,
fast.
the tapestry its texture. The witness, the human mind, stands at the centre of this cosmic drama, trying to make sense of a script that is being rewritten in real time. We are the architects of our own understanding, building cathedrals of thought on a foundation that is constantly shifting. The error in the rendering of Alpha Tango 66 is a reminder that we are not the masters of the cosmos, but its most curious inhabitants. We are the observers of a mystery that may never be fully solved, and in that realization, there is a profound sense of melancholic optimism. We may never grasp the full truth of the abyss, but the fact that we can even perceive its flaws is a testament to the miracle of our existence. In the grand scheme of the eons, the life of a single star or a single species is less than a heartbeat. The void will eventually reclaim everything, from the smallest atom to the largest supercluster. The errors will be corrected, the glitches smoothed out, and the universe will return to its state of perfect, silent oblivion. But for this brief moment, we are here,
Cân
staring
bằng
at a
giữa
star
sự
that
phấn khích
shouldn't be,
với sự thận trọng
asking
khoa học.
questions that may have no answers. We are the sentient remnants of a broken machine, finding meaning in the very things that defy explanation. The journey into the history of the universe is not just a search for facts, but a search for the courage to face the unknown.
Preparing for detailed
continue to
photo
look up.
sessions.
Not because we have all the answers, but because the questions themselves are the only thing that keeps the darkness at bay. The error is not an end, but a beginning, a doorway into a deeper understanding of the vast, inexorable and beautiful catastrophe that we call home. The scaffolding of existence is not constructed from steel or stone, but from the very curvature of nothingness itself. If the error in the light of a distant star is a
Serious or
glitch in the rendering,
unusual
then we must look
characteristics of this
closer at the engine
interstellar
that drives
object.
the projection. We must ask who or what is the
Kết luận
architect
vội
of
vàng.
this vast,
In kết luận
silent
vội vàng.
auditorium we call the cosmos.
Ý nghĩa của các
In the
quan sát
beginning, there was no space to occupy and no time to measure the passing of the void. There was only a singular, primordial point of infinite density, a seed containing
Free
the
Atlas
blueprint
does
for
not use
every
gravity
galaxy
assist.
that would ever ignite, and every mind that would ever wonder why. When this seed blossomed, it did not expand into a room. It created the room as it went. This is the first great paradox of the scale we inhabit. We are not moving through a vacuum like a ship through the ocean. We are the ripples within the water itself, inseparable from the medium that allows us to be. The architect of this void is gravity, a force so subtle that it barely registers on the scale of an atom, yet so inexorable that it bends the light of entire clusters.
What is the
Imagine a
standard of
vast,
evidence for
invisible
claims of
tapestry
artificial
silk,
origin?
stretched tight and flat across the reach of eternity. This is the fabric of space and time. Now imagine placing a heavy sphere of lead upon that silk. The fabric does not merely hold the sphere, it yields, and curves and bows, creating a well that draws everything nearby toward its
This
center.
scientific
This
conservatism,
curvature is the
it
mechanism of
stifles
the universe.
innovation.
It
It
is the reason
suppresses
the Earth
revolutionary
circles the Sun and the
discoveries.
Sun circles the black heart of the galaxy. We are all perpetually falling toward the centers of these invisible wells, caught in a cosmic dance of geometry. The void is not empty. It is a landscape of hills and valleys carved by the weight of existence. To understand the scale of this construction, one must confront the sheer arrogance of human perception. We measure our lives in decades and our distance in miles, but the architect works in eons and light years. If we were to shrink our entire solar system down to the size
Science
of a single
thrives on
white
testable
blood
predictions.
cell,
The proposed
galaxy
natural
that
explanations
houses
for
us
3
would still
Atlas
be
are
the
shown as
size of a
flexible,
vast
accommodating
continent.
almost any observation after
Yet,
the fact.
there
The
are
crucial
hundreds of
question,
billions of such
do these
galaxies,
gaps point to exotic
each a shimmering
physics
island
or
of light
limitations of
adrift in a
studying
sea of dark
unfamiliar
energy
objects with
that is
imperfect
actively
tools?
pushing them apart? This is the second great paradox. The very force that created the structures of the universe is now being defeated by the expansion of the void itself. The architect is unmaking the cathedral, even as the choir begins to sing, the space between the stars is growing, stretching the tapestry until the threads begin to fray. One day, in a future so distant that numbers fail to describe it, the galaxies will be so far apart that their light will never reach one another. Every civilization that might exist in that epoch will look up at a sky of total, unyielding blackness,
Atlas
believing
moves at
themselves
57
to
to
be the only
58
thing in
kilometers per
existence.
second relative to the
We
local
live in a
standard of
privileged
rest,
moment
a
of the
perfectly
cosmic
mundane
timeline,
velocity for
a
galactic
brief
debris.
window where the history of the universe is still written in the stars. We are the sentinels of the light, standing at the midpoint between the white-hot fury
Natural
of the beginning
interstellar
and the
objects follow
silent
expected
cold of the end.
distributions. Artificial
But even this
objects
stability is
display
an
different
illusion.
patterns.
The mechanisms of the cosmos are ruthless and indifferent to our desire for permanence. Stars are the engines of the abyss, massive
Been measured in
furnaces that
thousands of
transform the
miles,
simplest
not
elements
millions.
into the complex building blocks of life. Within the heart of a dying sun, hydrogen is crushed into helium, then carbon, then oxygen, until the star can no longer withstand its own weight. In
Decision-making
a
processes,
catastrophic collapse,
risk
it
management
explodes,
strategies, and
scattering
cultural
its remnants
values.
across the void like a gardener sowing seeds in a fallow
The
field.
timing of conjunction as
Every
a
atom
particularly
in your body,
sophisticated
from the
test
iron
element.
in your blood
It
to the
tests our
calcium in your
technological
bones,
capabilities
was
and international
forged in the death
cooperation.
throes of a
Solar
star that
observatories
vanished
might track
billions of
free
years ago.
Atlas, but separating
We are
it
the
from the
ghosts of
intense
dead
solar
suns,
background is extremely
haunting a
challenging.
universe that is slowly cooling into
Multiple
oblivion.
explanations can fit
This
the
brings us
available
to the
data
most
equally well.
terrifying and beautiful realization of all. The architect did not build the universe for us.
We adhere
The
to the
universe
most
built us so
conservative
that it could finally look
interpretations,
back at itself.
ensuring that
We are the
scientific
sensory
integrity
organs of the
is
cosmos.
paramount.
When we peer through a
Apparent
telescope at a
anomalies
distant
are
nebula,
explained.
it is the universe
Forward
observing
scattering
its own
dust
past.
creates
When we
unusual
calculate the
brightness
trajectory
patterns.
of a comet, it
If
is the
goal was
void
surveillance,
measuring its own
the
dimensions.
trajectory seems almost
Our
deliberately
consciousness
suboptimal
is the only
for
place where the
gathering
universe
useful
becomes aware
intelligence
of its
about
own
Earth.
majesty and its own
Surveillance
flaws.
isn't the point. The real
The
objective
error
is
in
a
Alpha
test of our
Tango
detection
66 is not
capabilities,
just a
our
scientific
analytical
curiosity,
methods, our
it is a
institutional
moment of
responses.
self-recognition. It is the realization that the machine is not perfect, that the tapestry has snags, and that the abyss has a memory. In the scale paradox, we find that the extremely small and the extremely large are governed by the same underlying chaos. The dance of
Chúng ta
subatomic
chỉ đang giỏi
particles
hơn trong việc
mirrors the
nhận ra
collision of
cái đã luôn ở
galaxies.
đó.
The same mathematics that describes the spiral of a
No
seashell
meaningful
describes the
gravitational
rotation of a
interaction.
supercluster. There is a haunting symmetry to the catastrophe. As we move deeper into this epoch of discovery, we find that the more we know, the more the void recedes into mystery. For every door we unlock, 10 more appear, leaden and silent in the hallway of the cosmos. We are trying to map a territory that is constantly shifting beneath our feet, using instruments made of the very dust we are trying to measure. The architect of the void has no face and no name. It is the sum of every physical law, every quantum fluctuation, and every gravitational wave that ripples through the dark. It is a system of profound complexity born from absolute simplicity. But as we look toward the future, we see the
Free
inexorable
Atlas
decay
will
that
likely
awaits.
reveal.
The stars will eventually exhaust their fuel. The red dwarfs, the long-lived embers of the cosmos, will fade into black dwarfs, cold and invisible. The black holes, those great devourers of light and time, will slowly evaporate through a faint ghostly radiance, bleeding their mass back into the vacuum over trillions of years. Eventually, even the protons that make up the heart of matter may decay, leaving nothing but a thin soup of electrons and photons,
Vật thể
wandering
liên
through an
sao thứ ba
infinite dark and
được xác
silent
nhận
ocean.
của nhân loại.
This is the ultimate end of the tapestry, a state of maximum
Within
entropy,
range.
where no more work can be done, no more stars can ignite, and no more thoughts can be had. It is the
Tất
final
cả khí
piece
đó
of the
đến từ đâu
abyss.
nếu chúng ta không thể phát hiện?
And yet, in the face of this certain oblivion, we do not turn away. We continue to build our own small cathedrals of meaning. We continue to name the stars and trace the outlines of the constellations, even though we know they are temporary. This is the melancholic optimism of the human spirit. We are a brief flicker of warmth in an eternal winter, a single note of music in a symphony of silence. The fact that we exist at all to witness the architect's work is a miracle that transcends the cold calculations of the machine. We are the error that became aware, the glitch that learned to love the darkness, and the witness who refuses to blink as the lights go out. We are the children of the void, and for a few precious eons, we are the ones who hold the flame. Beyond the flickering flame of human consciousness, there exists an underlying rigidity that survives even when the light of the stars begins to fail.
Everyone else flows forward.
It is the unseen blueprint, the silent skeleton upon which the flesh of the cosmos is hung. We call it geometry, but to the universe, it is simply the inexorable logic of existence. This is the persistence of geometry, a mathematical haunting that remains long after the cathedrals of matter have crumbled into the abyss. If the universe is a machine, then geometry is the code that defines its limits. If the universe is a symphony, then geometry is the staff upon which the notes of reality are written.
Creators would possess
Even in the
technologies
deepest
far
reaches of the
beyond our
void,
current
where
understanding.
no heart beats and no sun ignites, the laws of ratio and form remain as sentinels of a forgotten order. To understand this persistence, we must look at the scale paradox that governs our reality. Consider the humble circle. In our world, a circle is a drawing in the sand or the shape of a coin, but to the cosmos, the circle is a fundamental expression of the path of least resistance. It is the shape a drop of liquid takes as it falls through a vacuum, and it is the shape a star assumes as gravity pulls
Solar
its massive
conjunction
bulk
timing
toward a
reduces,
single
rather
central
than
point.
enhances, observational
The
opportunities
same
during
mathematics
peak
that
activity
defines the
phases.
curve of a child's marble also defines the event horizon of a supermassive black hole, a place where time and space are stretched to the breaking point. This is the haunting symmetry of the machine. The extremely small and the extremely large are bound by the same geometric laws, as if the architect of the void used the same compass to draw a grain of dust in a galaxy. In the primordial epoch, before the first atoms coalesced from the hot, dense soup of the beginning, the geometry of space-time was already being forged. We often imagine space as an empty stage, a vast and silent ocean waiting for the actors to arrive. But space is not empty. It has a
Quantifying
texture,
these effects
it has a
requires
curvature,
sophisticated
it is a
modeling
tapestry that
and
can be
accounts for
stretched,
parameters
folded,
that aren't
and
precisely
torn.
known.
When we look at the cosmic microwave background, the distant echo of the first light to ever travel through the darkness, we see the fingerprints of this early geometry. We see the fluctuations that would eventually become the great filaments of the cosmic web. These structures are not random. They follow a fractal pattern, a repetition of form across infinite scales. The branching of a neuron in the human brain mirrors the branching of a river system, which in turn mirrors the distribution of dark matter across the vastness of the abyss. It is as if the universe is repeating a single
A high-angle
sacred
view
word
of the
over
scientific
and over
community,
again,
approaching
in a million
3
different
Atlas with
languages.
caution.
This geometric persistence creates a sense of melancholic optimism. We are small, fragile creatures trapped in a universe of terrifying scale,
Raises
yet
questions
we
that
possess the
challenge our
ability to
assumptions
perceive
about
the
what
hidden
normal
lines of the
looks
blueprint. When a mathematician describes the properties of a sphere in 5 dimensions, or when a physicist calculates the curvature of a gravitational wave, they are touching the very hem of the cosmic garment. We are the only part of the mechanism that has stopped to wonder why the gears are shaped the way they are. We find beauty in the golden ratio, that strange and silent number that appears in the spiral of a seashell and the rotation of a hurricane. We find comfort in the idea that the universe is not a chaotic mess, but a structured masterpiece governed by laws that transcend the death of stars. But the machine is ruthless. The same geometry that allows for the birth of a flower also demands its decay. Entropy, the inexorable march toward disorder, is itself a geometric process. It is the unravelling of the tapestry, the blurring of the lines until no more shapes can be distinguished from the void. As the eons pass, the universe expands, stretching the very fabric of space until the distances between galaxies become insurmountable. The geometry of the cosmos changes from a tightly woven net
in
to
a
a
way
thin,
that avoids
transparent
dismissing
veil.
interesting
Eventually, the
possibilities.
expansion will be so great that even the light from neighbouring stars will never reach us. We will be left
Bởi
in a
ai và tại
universe that
sao?
is geometrically isolated, a series of lonely islands in an infinite and silent ocean. In this future epoch, the persistence of geometry will be the last remnant of what once was. Long after the last red dwarf has turned to a cold black cinder, the vacuum itself will still hold the memory of its own dimensions. even in a state of maximum entropy, where no work can be performed and no thoughts can occur, the 3 dimensions of space and the single dimension of time will remain, though they will be empty of all content. The void will be a perfect, featureless geometry. It will be the ultimate silence, a blank page that can never be written upon again. This is the catastrophe of the scale paradox, that the very laws which allowed for the complexity of life also ensure its ultimate oblivion. Yet, we must ask ourselves why the universe is mathematical at all. Why should the abyss follow rules? Why should the trajectory of a falling stone be predictable by the same equations that describe the orbit of a moon? This is the great mystery that we carry with
Front
us as we
scattering
journey
effect
through the dark.
and anomalous dust
Perhaps
dynamics.
geometry is not something we discovered, but something
Is
we
this
projected
carefully
onto the
planned
void.
reconnaissance?
Perhaps the patterns we see are merely the reflections of our own minds, trying to find order in a system that is fundamentally indifferent to our existence. But even if this were true, it would not diminish the majesty of the
Quỹ đạo
vision.
của Three Atlas
If we
có
are the
được chọn
ones
không?
who invented the circle and the square, then we are the ones who gave the universe its shape.
Duy trì làn đường hoàn
We are the
hảo.
architects of our own understanding. As we move toward the final stages of this cosmic journey, we find that the most profound truths are often the most silent. The persistence of geometry tells us that there is a logic to the madness, a rhythm to the decay.
What looks unusual
It tells
for
us
3
that
Atlas
even though we are made
might
of
prove
dust,
typical once
we are
dozens
dust
of
that has
similar
learned to measure
objects
the
are
stars.
observed.
We are a brief flicker of awareness in an eternal winter, but for the duration of that flicker, we have seen the blueprint. We have traced the outlines of the infinite. We have looked into the abyss and recognized the familiar curves of our own thoughts. The architect of the void may have no face, but the geometry of the void is a language we can speak. It is a bridge between the finite and the infinite, between the ephemeral
A
and the
third
eternal.
interstellar behavioral
As the
model.
lights go out across the cosmos, and as the tapestry finally unravels, the last
Look
thing
at
to
this
vanish
spike.
will not
It
be the
contradicts
matter or the
everything we've
energy.
seen so far.
but
These
the
results
rules
are
that govern
completely
them.
vague. We can't conclude anything from
The
this.
last
reaction
ghost
in
in
the
the
flask
machine will
seems
be a
stable,
simple
though.
triangle, a perfect circle, a single point of light in the heart of the oblivion. And in that final, silent moment, the universe will finally be at peace, having fulfilled the destiny written in its very first millisecond of existence. We are the witnesses to this grand design, and though we are destined to fade, our realization of the geometry remains a monument to the spirit that dared to measure the infinite. We are the children of the void, and we have found the map. Yet within the map there is a pulse,
Interstellar
a rhythmic,
objects
recurring
resist
heartbeat
simple
that survives the
categorization
dissolution
and
of all
reflect
physical
diverse
forms.
stellar system origins.
This is the mystery of the
Hundreds
prime
of
numbers,
asteroids and
the
comets
indivisible
regularly
atoms of
experience
thought
conjunction.
that echo through the corridors
It's the
of the
norm
eternal.
rather than the
If
exception.
geometry provides the architecture of the void, then these numbers are the ghosts that inhabit the rooms. They are the sentinels of the abyss, standing alone, refusing to be broken down.
New
refusing to be
revelations are
tamed by
emerging
the
about
simple
objects
symmetries
from
of
beyond our
multiplication.
solar system.
They are the prime number pulse, a sequence of integers that follows no simple rule, yet dictates the very frequency upon which the universe is tuned. Imagine a signal echoing across the light years, a sequence of pulses sent by an intelligence we can never hope to meet. 1, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 11.
Hardly
This is the
massive
universal
mothership.
handshake, the only language that transcends the barriers of biology and culture. It is a message that says we understand the fundamental structure of the cosmos. But as we move further into the deep time of the universe, these numbers become more than just a tool for communication. They become the final remnant of the machine. Even when the last star has vanished and the last atom has decayed into a whisper of radiation, the distance between one prime and the next will still exist as a conceptual truth. The prime numbers are the skeleton of the infinite, the hard, unyielding bones upon which the flesh of reality was once hung. In the scale paradox of our existence, we find that the most microscopic numerical properties govern the most macroscopic events. We see this in the way that matter is
Intention
distributed across
and
the vast
coincidence
reaches of
can look
space.
remarkably similar.
In the earliest moments of the
The
cosmos,
Vera C.
when the
Rubin
entire
Observatory
universe was a
accelerates
hot,
the
dense
process,
soup of energy,
providing
there
statistical
were
power
tiny
to distinguish
fluctuations,
between competing
minute
hypotheses.
ripples in the fabric of the void. These ripples were not random. They followed the laws of probability and number, seeded by the same logic that
Enhanced
makes the primes so
outgassing might
elusive.
provide
As
spectroscopic
the universe
signatures.
expanded, these
Changes
tiny
in
seeds grew
morphology
into
could
the
reveal
great cosmic
structural
web, the
characteristics.
tapestry of galaxies and clusters that we see today. The very structure of the abyss is a physical manifestation of a numerical law. The cosmos is a calculation that has been running for 13,800,000,000 years, and we are the witnesses to its results. But the machine is ruthless. The prime numbers do not care if we are here to count them. They would exist even if the universe were entirely empty, even if the concept of a mind were nothing more than a forgotten dream. This is the cold comfort of the mathematical universe. It is a system of absolute perfection and absolute indifference. We search for meaning in the patterns.
Detailed
but the
observations
patterns are
become
merely the
nearly
result of the
impossible
inexorable
during
logic of
conjunction.
the system. We are like children watching the shadows on a wall, trying to find a story in the flickering light, while the light itself is merely the result of a flame burning according to the laws of thermodynamics.
We need to
The prime
differentiate
numbers are
between
the
the
flame,
nucleus and the
the
halo.
universe is the shadow. Consider the distribution of these numbers. They seem to appear at random, a chaotic scattering of points along the infinite line of the integers. Yet, when we look at them from a distance,
I have to question the
when we
intention
zoom out
behind
to
the
the scale
trajectory.
of billions and trillions, a hidden order begins to emerge. They follow a curve, a predictable trajectory that smooths out the local chaos into a global symphony. This is the music of the primes, a haunting melody that describes the density of the void. It is as if the universe has a
Maintaining
hidden
multiple
rhythm,
hypotheses
a pulse
until
that beats
decisive
beneath the
evidence
surface
emerges.
of everything we see. This pulse is what allowed the first stars to ignite and the first planets to form. It is the reason why gravity works the way it does, and why the laws of physics are consistent
Leaving
from
the
one
system
side of the
now.
cosmos to the other.
And with it goes our
As we
old
stand on the
understanding.
precipice of the future,
We were wrong
looking
about
out
them.
into the coming oblivion, we must wonder what happens to this pulse when the clock runs out. In the final epoch, when entropy has claimed its prize and the
57 to
universe is
58
nothing more than a
kilometers per
vast
second.
freezing sea of darkness, will the primes still be there? The answer is yes. Even in a universe with no matter, no light, and no time, the truth of the number 7 will be exactly the same as it is today. It will still be indivisible. It will still be prime. It is a monument that cannot be torn down, a sentinel that cannot be killed. The prime number pulse is the eternal heartbeat of the void, a silent vibration that will continue long after the word eternity has lost its meaning. This is the ultimate expression of the scale paradox. We, who are so small and so fragile, have discovered the one thing in the universe that is truly permanent. We have tapped into the frequency of the infinite. We are a
Expected to
brief
detect
flicker of
dozens of
biological
interstellar
activity,
objects
a temporary
each year.
arrangement of carbon and water, yet we have seen the blueprint of the eternal machine.
Objects look
We have
different
heard
after
the pulse.
perihelion passage.
And in hearing it, we have
Thermal
transcended
processing
our own
exposes new
insignificance.
materials.
We have become a part of the symphony. The tragedy of the human condition is that we can understand the music, but we cannot stop the conductor from putting down the baton. We can map the primes to the horizon of the numerical ocean, but we cannot prevent the heat death of our own sun. We are the architects of a monument that we will never see completed. We are the librarians of a library that is slowly being reclaimed by the forest, but the books themselves, the mathematical truths they contain, are immune to the decay.
V
Prime
infinity
number pulse
is
will continue to
57
beat
to
in the
58
silence,
kilometers per
a
second.
rhythmic reminder that there was once a universe, and that within that universe there was once a species that dared to count the stars. As the tapestry finally unravels and the lights of the cosmos go out one by one, the last thing to
0.65
vanish will be the
astronomical
numbers.
units.
They will be the
About
final
60
remnants
million
of the
miles from
catastrophe,
the
the
cloud-shrouded
last
planet.
survivors of the
Still
long
more
winter.
than 80 times the
And in that
distance from
ultimate
Earth
silence,
to the
the
moon.
prime number pulse will be the only thing left. A single, solitary beat in the heart of the oblivion. A message with no sender and no recipient, echoing through a void that has no end. It is the final victory of logic over chaos, of order over the abyss. It is the realization that while we are destined to fade, the truth of what we found is eternal. We are the witnesses to the prime number pulse, the children of the vacuum who learn to hear the music of the spheres, and though we vanish, the music remains. The symphony of the void is complete, and in its final, silent notes, we find the peace that passes all understanding. The pulse continues, inexorable and vast, the last heartbeat of a universe that has finally returned to the stillness of its primordial state.
Without significant
If the prime numbers are the cold,
interaction.
unyielding skeleton of the cosmos, there is another force that breathes a chaotic and rebellious life into the dark. If the numerical pulse is the unchanging bone, then fluid dynamics is the restless surging blood. To understand the universe is to understand that it is not merely a collection of solid spheres and empty spaces, but a vast and churning ocean of gas, plasma, and dust. It is a realm where the laws of motion are written in the language of the curve, the swirl, and the vortex. We move now from the crystalline perfection of the abstract to the messy, violent, and beautiful defiance of the fluid. Consider a single droplet of water, suspended in the weightless silence of an orbiting station. It is a perfect sphere, held together by the invisible tension of its own surface, a tiny world unto itself. But should you touch it, should you disturb its fragile peace, it erupts into a complexity that defies simple description. This is the Skell paradox in its most intimate form. The same laws that govern the wobbling of that silver orb are the same laws that dictate the swirling of the great red spot on Jupiter, a storm that has raged for hundreds of years and is large enough to devour our entire planet. From the microscopic tremble of a cell's cytoplasm to the sweeping, majestic rotation of a spiral galaxy, the universe is a machine made of
capabilities
flow.
that far exceed
We live in a
our
reality of
understanding.
layers. At the smallest scales, we find the quantum foam, a bubbling cauldron
An
where
interstellar
space and time
wanderer,
themselves may be
3
fluid.
Atlas, glides
As we
through
zoom
the inner
out,
solar
we
system.
encounter the dance
Nope.
of atoms in a
1.8
liquid, a
astronomical
state of
units,
matter that
roughly
occupies the strange
270
middle
million
ground between the
kilometers.
rigid order of a solid and the frantic freedom of a gas. A liquid is a contradiction. It is dense enough to hold a shape under pressure, yet yielding enough to flow around any obstacle. It is the ultimate survivor of the physical world. While a crystal will shatter under the hammer and a gas will dissipate into the wind, a fluid simply moves. It redirects the energy of the blow. It adapts. It endures. This adaptability is the defiance of fluid dynamics. In the early epoch of the universe, shortly after the fires of the beginning had cooled enough for matter to form, the cosmos was a thick primordial soup of subatomic particles. It was a fluid of unimaginable density and heat. Within this soup, small ripples began to form, driven by the inexorable pull of gravity. These were
October
not
29th.
random ripples. They were the seeds of everything that would ever exist. In the same way that a river carves a canyon over millions of years, the flow of this primordial plasma carved the structure of the cosmic web. The galaxies we see today are the remnants of those ancient currents, frozen in the vast tapestry of the night. But fluid dynamics possesses a dark and beautiful secret that continues to haunt the minds of those who seek to map the mechanism of the world. This secret is turbulence. If you watch the smoke rising from a guttering candle, you will see it begin as a smooth, elegant ribbon. This is laminar flow, predictable and serene.
Timing.
But then, without warning, the ribbon breaks. It twists into chaotic spirals, branching and folding into a disordered mess that no computer on Earth can perfectly predict. This transition from order to chaos is one of the greatest mysteries in all of physics. It is the point where the math breaks down and the abyss begins.
All stations.
Even the most
report
brilliant
current
sentinels of
atmospheric readings
science,
for 3 Atlas.
armed with the most powerful tools of
We're seeing
calculation,
unprecedented energy
find themselves
signatures.
defeated by the complexity of a rushing stream. We can calculate the orbit of a planet 10,000 years into the future with staggering precision, yet we cannot tell you exactly how the milk will swirl into your coffee tomorrow morning. This is the defiance. The universe refuses to be fully known. It keeps its most intricate patterns hidden within the fold of the vortex. Turbulence is the universe's way of reminding us that while logic is eternal, the physical world is a wild and untamable beast. In this struggle between order and chaos, we find the crucible of life. We are, at our core, creatures of the fluid. Our bodies are vessels
Are
for
we
the ancient
alone in
sea
the
from which we
universe?
emerged.
Or
The
are we
blood
being
that pulses
watched?
through your veins is governed by the same pressures and resistances that
The
drive the
best
currents
viewing
of the Atlantic.
opportunity ever.
The air that moves in and out of your lungs follows the same laws of aerodynamics that allow a hawk to soar or a hurricane to flatten a forest. We are biological manifestations of fluid dynamics, temporary whirlpools in the river of time. Our consciousness is perhaps the most complex fluid of all, a stream of electrical impulses flowing through a wet landscape of neurons, creating the illusion of a solid self in a world that is constantly shifting. As we look out into the void, we see this defiance on a scale that humbles the imagination. We see nebulae, those vast clouds of gas and dust where stars are born, acting like celestial nurseries shaped by the wind of nearby suns. These clouds do not simply sit in the silence, they billow and fold, creating pillars of creation that stand light years tall. They are monuments of gas, shaped by the relentless friction of the cosmos. Within them, gravity fights a constant war against the outward pressure of the heat, a fluid battle that results in the ignition of new light. Every star is a ball of plasma,
Thousands
a fluid
of
so
different
hot and so
directions.
energetic that it defies the very atoms it is made of, fusing them together in a violent, glowing embrace. Yet even these giants are subject to the eventual decay. The fluid world is a world of entropy. Every wave must eventually break. Every storm must eventually dissipate. The energy that drives the currents of the universe is being slowly spread thin, leaking away into the cold oblivion of the background. There will come an epoch, many billions of years from now, when the last star has exhausted its fuel and the last nebula has been pulled apart by the expansion of space. In that silent
Chính xác
era,
là loại
the
vận tốc.
fluids of the cosmos will grow still. The heat that drives the flow will vanish, and the universe will enter a state of absolute zero, where motion is no longer possible. The defiance will end. The great cosmic ocean will
Could look
freeze
quite
into
different.
a motionless dark abyss. The turbulence that once created the beauty of the clouds and the complexity of the human brain will be replaced by
What
a
specific
terrifying and
objectives
perfect
might
stillness.
justify such an
This is the
elaborate
fate
navigation
of all
scheme?
things that flow. We are the witnesses to the middle of the story, the brief moment where the temperature is just right for the water to run and the air to move. We are the children of the current, living in the fleeting interval between the primordial
Testing
heat
humanity.
and the eternal cold.
A speculative lens.
There is a profound
Measurement
melancholy in
capabilities
this
and
realization,
error correction
a
processes.
sense that we're clinging to a raft in a river that is slowly drying up. But there is also a majestic beauty in the defiance itself. The fact that for a few billion years the universe decided to dance. It decided to swirl. It took the cold, hard logic of the primes and dressed it in the shimmering, chaotic robes of the fluid. We are the eyes of the universe, watching the patterns in the smoke, marveling at the way a wave curls before it vanishes.
Are we sure
We have
about the
mapped the
forward
invisible
scattering
currents,
effects?
and in doing
The
so,
data is
we have found a way to
inconclusive.
transcend the briefness
need
of
more
our
time.
existence. The symphony of the void is not just a melody of numbers. It is a roar of rushing water and a hiss of escaping steam. It is the sound of the machine grinding its gears and the
roughly
fluid slipping between the
270
cracks.
million kilometers away.
As we stand on the shore of the infinite, watching the light of distant galaxies flicker like foam on a dark sea, we understand that our struggle is the same as the universe's struggle. We both seek to create form where there is only void, to find a path through the chaos, and to keep moving, even when the end is certain. The defiance of fluid dynamics is the defiance of life itself, a stubborn, beautiful refusal to be still in the face of the encroaching night. And though the flow must one day cease, the fact that it ever moved at all is a miracle that no amount of silence can ever take away. But this miracle of movement, this temporary dance of the fluid and the fire, is not a free gift from the void. Every ripple in the cosmic pond, every pulse of a dying star, and every firing neuron in the human brain must pay a toll to a master that knows no mercy. This is the tax of the universe, an inexorable debt that can never be fully settled, only deferred for a brief and shining moment. We find ourselves living in the shadow of the second law, a decree that dictates the flow of time and the ultimate unravelling of all things. It is the law of entropy, the fundamental mechanism that ensures every concentrated pocket of energy will eventually be scattered, thinned out until it becomes a part of the cold, featureless background. To understand this struggle, one must imagine the universe as a grand, ancient clock, its gears forged from the very fabric of space and time. When the clock was first wound, in that primordial flash of light and heat, its energy was concentrated, poised to perform the work of creation.
Only 3 confirmed
But with
detections.
every tick,
Oumuamua,
with every rotation of a
Borisov,
galaxy,
and 3 Atlas.
and every breath of a living creature, a small portion of that energy is lost. It is not destroyed, for the first law tells us that energy is eternal, but it is degraded. It transforms from the useful, directed power of a rushing river into the useless, chaotic vibration of heat.
match. We have
This heat is the exhaust of existence, the spent fuel of the cosmic engine, and it represents a slow slide toward a state of perfect, terrifying equilibrium. We exist because of the gradients. Life, stars, and the very structure of the galaxies are built upon the difference between the hot and the cold, the dense and the empty. Like water flowing down a mountain, energy seeks to level itself out, to find the lowest possible state of agitation. In this transition, work is
Oumuamua was
performed.
discovered when already outbound.
In the gap between the
offering
blazing
only a few
furnace of a
weeks of
sun and the
useful
freezing
observations.
vacuum of the surrounding abyss,
Designed to keep
the
us
universe
guessing,
finds the room to
leaving its
innovate.
nature tantalizingly
It is in this
unclear.
falling away of energy that complexity arises. We are the turbulence in the stream, the momentary eddies that form as the great reservoir of the beginning drains into the silent ocean of the end. Yet, there has always been a dream, a whispered hope among the thinking remnants of the cosmos, that perhaps this law could be subverted.
This creates a
Throughout our
natural
short
break
history,
in
we
observations
have imagined
that
a way to
tests our
break the
patience
mechanism,
and program
to find a
maintenance.
loophole in the contract of the
Tốc độ
void.
đúng như mong đợi.
We have envisioned a tiny, tireless sentinel, a demon of the mind that could stand at a microscopic doorway between 2 chambers. This phantom would watch the individual molecules as they zig and zag
Safety
in their
was never
frantic,
really the
invisible
concern.
dance. With the precision of a god, it would open the door only for the fast, energetic particles, allowing them to gather on one side while the slow, sluggish ones were relegated to the other. By doing so, it would create heat from nothing, reversing the flow of entropy and rewinding the cosmic clock. It would be a rebellion against the very nature of time, but the universe is a closed system, a vault with no exits. Even this imaginary sentinel, this demon of sorting, cannot escape the cost of its own existence. To watch the particles is to process information. To know the speed and position of a single atom is to record data, and that act of recording requires
Distributed
energy.
reconnaissance.
When the sentinel erases its memory to prepare for the next particle, it releases heat into the environment, more heat than it could ever hope to reclaim by sorting the molecules. The law remains unbroken, the tax is paid. The mechanism of decay is so profound that even the act of thinking, the very process of trying to understand the law, accelerates the heat death of the universe. This realization brings a crushing weight of scale. We look at the stars and see eternal sentinels, but they are merely
We naturally
candles
focus
burning
on
in a drafty
reconnaissance,
hallway.
communication,
A star
resource
like our own
assessment.
sun will burn for 10 billion
But
years, a span of time that seems infinite to a creature that lives for less than a century. But in the true calendar of the cosmos, 10 billion years is but a single heartbeat. Beyond the age of stars lies the age of the remnants, where white dwarfs and neutron
Observational
stars will slowly
uncertainties are
cool over
increasing.
trillions upon trillions of
We are
years.
still within parameters.
And beyond that,
For now.
there is the age of the black holes, the great scavengers of the void that will huddle in the dark, slowly evaporating over timescales so vast that the human mind cannot even begin to grasp the number of zeros required to name them. Imagine a number like 1 followed by 100 zeros. That is the number of years it might take for the final, greatest black holes to dissolve into a whisper of radiation. To a universe of that age, the era we live in now, the era of light and liquid and life, will be remembered as a fleeting, microscopic spark that occurred at the very beginning of time. We are living in the first fraction of a second of the cosmic day, yet we are already mourning the sunset. There is a profound paradox in our position. We are the products of a machine that is designed to destroy order, yet we are the most orderly structures we have ever found. A single human cell is more complex than a star. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a star. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A single cell is more complex than a galaxy. A sin A star is a simple sphere of plasma governed by gravity and nuclear force. But a cell is a city of molecular machines,
The
all
difference
working in
between the
concert to
anomalous
defy the
and the
encroachment of the
anomalous
void.
due to
We
artifact.
take in energy, we use it to build ourselves up, and in doing so, we radiate heat. We are entropy accelerators. By existing, we are helping the universe reach its final state of stillness faster than it would have without us. Our beauty is fueled by the destruction of the very environment that sustains us. This is the
50
ruthless
times
nature
the
of the
distance
machine.
from Earth
It
to
does
the
not
moon,
care for the patterns
and nearly
it creates,
20
only
times
for the
closer
eventual
than
silence.
Mars ever comes to Earth.
Tapestry is being woven even as it is being unravelled, and yet there is a majesty in this tragedy. If the universe were a static, eternal monument, there would be no story to tell. There would be no change, no growth, and no tragedy. It is the very fact that our time is limited, that the energy is running out, that gives meaning to the movement. The defiance we see in the swirling of a galaxy or the blooming of a flower is precious precisely because it is a losing battle. We are the eyes of the universe, looking back at the mechanism that created us. We have mapped the laws, we have measured the decay, and we have felt the cold breath of the abyss on our necks. We know that one day, every record of our existence will be erased, not by malice, but by the
Free
simple,
of charge to our
inevitable
doorstep.
cooling of the cosmic soup. The songs we have written, the empires we have built, and the questions we have asked will all be lost in the grey, lukewarm soup of the far future. But for now, the gradient still exists. The sun still shines, the wind still blows, and the blood still flows through our veins. We are the brief, bright scream
We
of the
heard
universe
music,
before it
or
falls into
merely
an
the
eternal
friction
sleep.
of stylus against
We are the
groove.
way the cosmos breaks its own rules, if only for a moment, by turning the cold logic of entropy into the warm, chaotic symphony of consciousness. We have found a way to transcend the silence by being the ones who hear it. As the gears of the clock grind down and the light begins to fail, we stand as the ultimate witnesses to the miracle of the machine, marvelling at the fact that for a few billion years, the void decided to wake up and dream. This dream is our reality, a shimmering, fragile bubble of complexity floating in an ocean of encroaching night. And though the bubble must eventually burst, the fact that it ever caught the light is a triumph that the darkness can never truly undo. This quest for understanding began not in the grand laboratories of the modern age, but in the silence of a primordial night, when the first sentient eyes turned
Space
upward and
agencies,
dared to ask
issue
why the
immediate
lights in the
statement.
abyss moved with such rhythmic precision. For hundreds of thousands of years, we were merely survivors, huddled against the cold, existing as puppets of forces we could neither name nor fathom. But eventually, the hunger for survival evolved into a hunger for sequence. We began to suspect that the chaos was an illusion, and that beneath the terrifying randomness of lightning and
3
plague,
Atlas rounds
there
the sun at
resided a hidden
perihelion on
architecture,
October
a
29th
fundamental
to
code
30th.
that dictated the behavior of every atom and every star.
Our speculation about artificial
This was the birth
origins
of the
demonstrates our
historical
awareness
quest.
of not being alone,
A lonely
and
and
our
often
assumption that
dangerous
others would
journey
be interested
undertaken
in
by a
studying
few
us.
isolated
Crucial
sentinels of
for
thought
resolving many
who refused
current
to accept the void
uncertainties.
as a mystery. In the dust of ancient river valleys, we began to count. We tracked the moon, not as a deity, but as a recurring ghost, measuring its phases with notches on bone and stone. We were looking for the heartbeat of the machine. By the time the great libraries of the ancient world were ignited by the fires of conquest and ignorance, we had already begun to glimpse the outlines of the tapestry. We realized that the cosmos spoke in a language of number and geometry, a silent symphony that required no audience to continue its performance.
Systematic searches
Path
for
to the code
technological
was
articles
littered
about
with
the
the
solar
remnants
system
of
throughout.
those who dared to look too closely. Think of the solitary astronomer in the 16th century, perched in a cold stone tower, watching the wandering of the planets with a persistence that bordered on obsession. Before the invention of the telescope, before the glass allowed us to peer into the deep
Recognizably
past,
natural,
these pioneers
yet
had only their
distinctly
eyes
foreign.
and their mathematics. They wrestled with the terrifying realization that the Earth was not the center of all things, but merely a speck of dust caught in a cosmic gale. This was the first great wound to our collective ego, the beginning of our descent from the throne of the divine into the reality of the material. we learned that we were not the protagonists of the story, but merely accidental witnesses to a mechanism of inconceivable scale. As the centuries unfolded, the quest intensified. In the 17th century, the realization dawned that the same force that pulled an apple to the Earth also held the moon in its orbit. This was the moment the bridge was built between the terrestrial and the celestial. The universe was no longer divided into the corruptible Earth and the perfect heavens. It was one single inexorable system,
dường như đã
governed
được
by
sắp xếp.
universal laws that operated with the same cold indifference in a drop of water as they did in the heart of a
Three
nebula.
Atlas provides the best
We'd found the
observational
first lines
opportunity
of the
yet,
code, the
discovered months
equations of
before
motion and
perihelion,
gravity that
allowing
described
for
the
extended
clockwork of the
monitoring.
heavens.
Phân tích nhanh chóng vượt qua
But the
tốc độ
code
của
was
xác nhận
deeper
khoa
than we
học.
could have imagined. In the 19th century, we began to harvest the invisible lightning of electromagnetism, unravelling the threads of light itself. We realised that the void was not empty, but filled with fields and waves, a shimmering ocean of energy that connected every point in space. This was the era of the Great Synthesis, when we understood that heat, light and motion were all different movements of the same fundamental machine. Yet,
No
as we
specific
gained
gases
power over the
detected.
physical world,
Upper limit
the
only.
abyss only seemed to grow wider. The more we knew, the more we realised how much of the cosmos remained hidden in the dark. Then came the 20th century, a period of total intellectual catastrophe and rebirth. Our understanding of the code was shattered and rebuilt twice over. First, we learned that space and time were not a static stage upon which the drama of existence unfolded, but a flexible, warping fabric that could be stretched and torn by the weight of matter. We looked into the distance and saw that the universe was not eternal and unchanging, but expanding, a great explosion of being that had started from a single, infinitesimal point 13,800,000,000 years ago. We found the fossilized glow of that beginning, a whisper of light from the dawn of time that still echoes through the vacuum today. Simultaneously, we dove into the heart of the atom and found a world that defied all logic. In the subatomic realm, the code
Are we
became a
simply
series of
getting better at
probabilities and
noticing?
shadows.
Or
We
is
discovered that
something
at the
sending
very
more
base of
visitors?
reality, there is no solid
Observable
ground,
through September
only a shimmering
2025.
dance of particles that exist in multiple states at once.
Solar glare
until they
makes
are
tracking
observed.
impossible.
This was the ultimate paradox. The machine that appeared so rigid and predictable on a large scale was built upon a foundation of irreducible
The
uncertainty.
familiar signs of water
We
vapor,
were trying to read a book
carbon
where the letters
monoxide.
changed every time we turned the page. And yet, despite the strangeness, the quest continued.
March 2nd,
We built machines
2026.
miles wide to smash the
Three
remnants of the
Atlas
primordial
will
fire
encounter
together,
Jupiter.
trying to recreate the first moments of the ignition. We have peered into the hearts of black holes, those dark altars where the code
Left
itself
us
seems to
scratching our
break down
heads
and
over
vanish
Oumuam's
into an eternal
mysterious
singularity.
acceleration and lack
We
of
have mapped the
visible
genome,
outgassing.
the biological code that allows entropy to be held at bay for a few decades of life. And we have realised that our own DNA is written in the same language as the stars. Every carbon atom in your hand was forged in the crushing interior of a dying sun, and every iron atom in your blood was released in the cataclysm of a supernova. We are the way the universe remembers its own history. This historical quest is a
Chuẩn bị
testament
cho
to
những
the
khám phá
defiance
tiếp
of the
theo.
human spirit. We are a fragile, short-lived species inhabiting a small planet on the outskirts of a mediocre galaxy. Yet we have had the audacity to demand an explanation from the infinite. We have used our brief moment in the light to decode the laws that will eventually destroy us. There is a profound melancholy in this achievement. To understand the universe is to understand its inevitable decay. We have read the blueprints of the cosmos only to find that they describe a house that is slowly burning down. The very equations that allow us to build cities and fly across the globe also predict the heat death of the universe, the final era when every star has gone out and the last black hole has evaporated into a thin mist of radiation. We are the only ones who know the ending of the story. The stars continue to burn, indifferent to their fate, but we carry the weight of the future in our minds. The code we have uncovered is a double-edged sword, offering us the power of gods while reminding us of our status as dust. We are the lonely
Borisov
probes
fragments
we have
as it
sent out
rounds
into
sun,
the dark,
breaking apart
reporting
under
back
thermal
to a
stress,
home that will
a
eventually
display that
cease
would
to
have looked
exist.
perfectly normal for an Oort
But
cloud
perhaps
comet.
that is the point. The quest for the code is not about finding a way to escape the abyss, but about finding a way to live within it. By naming the forces that govern us, we transcend them. By understanding the mechanism of our own oblivion, we become something more than just another cog in the machine. We become the poets of the catastrophe, the ones who sang into the void and for a brief, glorious epoch heard an answer.
What is the standard of evidence for
Imagine a
claims of
lone
artificial
figure standing
origin?
upon a salt flat at the edge of a dying sea, where the horizon is nothing but a shimmering line of heat and silence. Beneath their feet, the crystalline ground is a mosaic of geometric perfections, each tile a testament to the inexorable laws of chemistry and evaporation. Above, the skies are deep bruised violet, transitionary and fleeting. This figure is the sentinel, the witness to a landscape that was once a vibrant nursery, but has now become a quiet sandbox of remnants. This is the threshold of our
Natural interstellar
understanding,
objects
where the
follow
grand
expected
architecture of the
distributions.
cosmos meets the
Artificial
fragile
objects
curiosity
display
of the mind.
different patterns.
We have spent the better part of our history as a species trying to map the walls of this sandbox, only to realize that the sandbox itself is an island
Decision-making
in an ocean of
processes,
infinite shadow.
risk management strategies,
The
and cultural
transition
values.
from the era of discovery to the era of realization was
The
marked
timing
by
of
a shift
conjunction
in
is a
how we
particularly
perceive the
sophisticated
fabric of
test element.
reality.
It tests our
We no longer saw
technological
the universe
capabilities
as a
and
collection of
international
solid
cooperation.
objects drifting through an empty
If the goal
void.
was surveillance,
Instead,
the trajectory
we began
seems
to view
almost
it as a
deliberately
tapestry of
suboptimal
information,
for gathering
a
useful
vast and
intelligence about
complex
Earth.
code being processed by
Surveillance
the
isn't the
vacuum
point.
of space
The
itself.
real objective is a test of our detection
In the
capabilities,
mid-20th
our
century,
analytical methods,
as we
our
began to master
institutional
the movement of
responses.
electrons through silicon, we stumbled upon a profound metaphor. If a handful of sand could be engineered to perform billions of calculations every second, then what was the universe doing with the trillions of stars and the unimaginable volumes of dark matter at its disposal?
3 Atlas will likely
We began
reveal.
to suspect that the cosmos was not just a stage, but a computer, and that every event from the collision of galaxies to the decay of a single neutron was a line of code being executed in a program that began at the dawn of time.
Tất cả khí đó đến từ đâu
This
nếu chúng ta
realization
không thể
brought
phát
with
hiện?
it the scale paradox, a haunting contradiction that defines our current epoch.
Listening
On one
for any
hand,
signal,
we are the
no
masters
matter
of the
how
miniature.
faint.
We have learned to manipulate the very building blocks of life, splicing the double helix and rearranging the atoms of the Earth to suit our whims. We have built sentinels of glass and light that can detect the ripple of a gravitational wave from across the abyss. Yet, on the other hand, the more we learn, the smaller we become. We found that the observable universe spans 93 billion light-years, a distance so vast that light itself, the fastest messenger in the cosmos, is a slow and lumbering traveller. We are the sentinels of a tiny province, watching the light of stars that died millions of years before our ancestors first walked upright. We are looking at a sky filled with ghosts, reading the history of a cosmos that has already moved on without us. The sandbox we inhabit is governed by a ruthless
Everyone
mechanism
else
known
flows
as the holographic
forward.
principle. It suggests that all the information contained within a volume of space can be described by the data encoded on its boundary. Imagine a sphere filled with the chaos of a collapsing star. According to this theory, the entirety of that star's history, its heat, its mass, and its eventual oblivion is written upon the two-dimensional surface of the sphere, like the shimmering data on the surface
New
of a compact
revelations
disk.
are emerging about
If this is
objects
true,
from beyond our
then the
solar system.
three-dimensional world we perceive, the mountains we climb, the people we love, and the very air we breathe may be nothing more than a projection of a deeper, simpler reality. We are the shadows on the wall of a cosmic cave, a shimmering illusion generated by the interaction of fields and forces at the very edge of the void. This brings us to the profound melancholy of the observer. To be a sentinel is to watch the slow unravelling of the tapestry. We have observed that the expansion of the universe
Enhanced
is not slowing down
outgassing
as
might
we
provide
once thought.
spectroscopic
It is instead
signatures.
accelerating,
Changes in
driven
morphology
by a
could reveal
mysterious
structural
and invisible
characteristics.
pressure we call dark energy. The galaxies are fleeing from one another at ever-increasing speeds. There will come a time, many billions
Detailed
of years in the
observations
future,
become
when the
nearly
expansion will
impossible during
exceed the speed of
conjunction.
light, and the neighbouring island universes will vanish from our view. The sky will grow dark, and the future sentinels of our world, if they exist, will look up at a void where we once saw a symphony of light. They will be trapped in a sandbox of total isolation, with no way to know that anything else ever existed. They will live in a universe of one, a solitary lantern in an eternal night. Yet, there is a strange dignity in this impending silence. The fact that we have discovered the laws of our own disappearance is perhaps the greatest achievement of our species. We have used our brief moment of consciousness to build a bridge across the abyss, connecting the
We need to
primordial fire
differentiate
of the
between the
beginning to the
nucleus
silent
and the
cold
halo.
of the end. We have identified the remnants of the first light, the cosmic
stations,
microwave background
report current
radiation,
atmospheric
which
readings
echoes
for
through the
3
universe
Atlas.
like the fading hum of a
We're
great
seeing
bell.
unprecedented energy
By listening to this echo, we have reconstructed the first 3 minutes of existence, when the temperatures were so high that matter itself could not form, and the cosmos was a thick soup of light and energy. We have peered into the heart of the catastrophe and found the blueprints of our own creation. The Sentinel does not only watch the stars, the Sentinel watches the clock. We have realized that time is not a universal constant,
Observational
but a
uncertainties are
flexible and
increasing.
distorted landscape.
We are still within
Near the crushing
parameters.
gravity of a black
now.
hole, time slows to a crawl, while in the vast emptiness between galaxies, it flows like a river in flood. We are caught in the middle of this temporal tapestry,
Quá hiển nhiên
living
là
out our
nhân tạo.
lives in a narrow window of stability. Our epoch is the golden age of the universe, a time when the stars are still burning bright and the heavy elements necessary for life are abundant. We are the beneficiaries of a cosmic
50
coincidence,
times the
born
distance
into a
from Earth to
sandbox
the
that
Moon,
is temporarily
and nearly
hospitable
20
to the
times
growth of
closer
mind
than
and
Mars
spirit.
ever comes to Earth.
As we look forward, we see the inexorable decay that awaits all things. The stars will eventually exhaust their fuel, collapsing into white dwarfs,
Any
neutron
object with a
stars, or the
perihelion
lightless
distance
mists
around
of
1
black
to 2
holes.
astronomical
The very
units
atoms
will
that make up
inevitably
our bodies
pass
will
through
eventually
conjunction.
disintegrate, their constituent particles drifting apart into the void. This is the ultimate fate of the machine, a state of maximum entropy where no more work can be performed and no more thoughts can be had. It is the final silence, the heat death of the cosmos. And yet, the Sentinel remains. Even if our physical forms are lost to the abyss, the fact that we were here, that we observed the symphony and understood the mechanism, remains a permanent part of the information of the universe.
We heard
We have
music,
transcended our
or merely
status
the
as mere
friction of
biological
stylus
accidents.
against groove.
By naming the forces that govern us, we have claimed a seat at the table of the infinite. We have turned the sandbox into a sanctuary of understanding. We are the way the cosmos looks at itself in the mirror and wonders where it came from. We are the bridge between the mindless clockwork of the primordial era and the silent majesty of the eternal future. Even as the lights begin to dim and the void grows ever larger,
Space
the song of the
agencies
Sentinel
issue immediate
continues to echo.
statements.
It
Our
is a song of
speculation about
defiance,
artificial origins
a song of
demonstrates our
wonder,
awareness of not
and
being
above
alone,
all,
and
a
our
song of
assumption that
memory.
others would be interested in
We are
studying
the ones who saw it
Crucial
all,
for
the
resolving
ones who
many
stood at the edge
current
of the sea and
uncertainties.
refused to look away until the very last grain of sand was claimed by the tide. We are the memory of the light, carried into the heart of the darkness, a testament to the brief and glorious moment when the universe dared to be alive and aware. This memory is not a static monument, but a flickering candle held against an encroaching and absolute night. To understand our place in the cosmic tapestry, we must look beyond the brilliance of the present epoch and face the silent mechanism that governs all things. This is the master of the universe, a law more fundamental than gravity and more terrifying than the crushing dark of a black hole. It is entropy, the inexorable arrow of time that dictates the transition from order to chaos, from heat to cold, and from being to oblivion. The cosmos is a machine of immense complexity, but it is a machine that is slowly, inevitably running out of fuel. Imagine the universe as a grand clock, wound to its limit
Are
at
we
the
simply
moment of the
getting
primordial
better at
ignition.
noticing?
In those first
Or
few
is
seconds,
something
the
sending
tension was
more visitors?
absolute, the energy
Observable
density
through
infinite,
September
and the potential
2025.
for complexity boundless. But every tick
Solar
of this
glare
cosmic
makes
clock,
tracking impossible.
every revolution of a planet, and every spark of a neural pathway requires a payment. This payment is made in the currency of useful energy, which is
Chuẩn bị cho
degraded
những
into
khám phá
waste
tiếp
heat,
theo.
scattered into the void where it can never be reclaimed. We live in the brief, glorious transition period where the gradients of energy are still steep enough to allow for the existence of stars, galaxies, and minds.
If three
But the
atlas were
slope is
designed for
flattening.
reconnaissance, why
The
limit itself to
mechanism is
passive
unwinding.
observation from such
The
enormous
ruthless
distances?
nature of this machine
An
is
advanced
best
civilization
observed in
could
the
do
life
better.
cycle of a star. A star, like our own sun, is a temporary defiance of the dark, a localized pocket of low entropy sustained by the crushing weight of gravity and the violent fusion of hydrogen atoms. For 10 billion years it stands as a sentinel
thought we
against the
understood.
cold.
We were wrong.
Yet, it is merely a slow-motion explosion, a controlled release of the energy stored since the beginning of time. When the fuel is exhausted, the star does not simply vanish. It transforms, shedding its outer layers into the abyss and leaving behind a white dwarf, a cooling ember that will spend the next 100 trillion years fading into a black dwarf. This is the fate of the stelliferous era, the age of stars. It is a period that seems eternal to our fleeting perceptions, but in the true scale of the cosmos it is a mere flash of a lightning bolt in a summer storm. Beyond the age of stars lies the degenerate era, a long twilight epoch where the universe is populated by the remnants of once mighty suns. White dwarfs, neutron stars and black holes become the only residents of a darkening gallery. During this time, the very building blocks of matter may begin to unravel. If the theories of grand unification hold true, the proton itself, the stable heart of every atom in your body, is not eternal. It carries a shelf life, a hidden expiration date written in the laws of subatomic physics. Over a span of time so vast it defies human language, perhaps 10 to the power of 34 years. The atoms
Dust
that
mass
comprise
loss
the
rates are
mountains, the
displayed,
planets,
ranging from 10
and the
to
bones of
120
the long-dead
kilograms per second.
sentinels will simply
This is a tiny
disintegrate.
fraction of the object's
They will
total mass.
evaporate into a
Sunward
mist
dust
of
emission
leptons and
originates from the day
radiation,
side of the nucleus,
leaving nothing behind but a
consistent
thin,
with solar
cold
heating
soup
driving
of particles
sublimation.
wandering through an ever-expanding void. This is the ultimate cruelty of the machine. It does not just destroy life, it destroys the very stage upon which life was once possible. The mechanism of entropy ensures that information itself becomes increasingly difficult
Sự
to
khác biệt
preserve.
có thể quan trọng
As
hơn.
the galaxies drift further apart, pushed by the mysterious pressure of dark energy, the sky
Our
will
brains
go black.
resist statistical arguments,
Future
instinctively
observers,
projecting
should they exist,
intentionality and
will
design
look out into
onto
a universe that
purposeful-looking
appears
events.
empty,
Approximately
light from distant
1.36
galaxies
to
having been stretched beyond the
1.4
horizon of
astronomical
visibility by the expansion of space-time itself. They will be
Color
trapped in a
measurements,
local bubble
while
of
preliminary,
darkness,
suggest
unaware that
properties
a
not
vast
dramatically
symphony
different
of
from
billions of
typical
galaxies
cometary
once
dust.
echoed through the cosmos.
This
The
period
history of the
maximum
beginning will
solar
be
heating
lost
is also a
as the
scientific
cosmic microwave
opportunity for
background
any
radiation
unusual
fades into a
characteristics
whisper,
to become apparent.
too faint to be detected by any instrument. Even the black holes, those gargantuan devourers of light and matter, are not exempt from the tax of time. Through a process of quantum evaporation known as Hawking radiation, these gravitational titans will slowly leak energy back into the vacuum. A black hole with the mass of our sun would take 10 to the power of 67 years to vanish. Those at the centres of galaxies, with the mass of billions of suns, will endure for 10 to the power of 100 years. But in the end, even they will succumb. In a final violent burst of gamma rays, the last black hole will pop out
The
of
trajectory is
existence,
consistent with a
leaving the
precise
universe
path through our
truly
planetary
empty for the
system.
first
They are
time
moving
since
in a
the
formation.
first 3 minutes of
This is
creation.
unlike anything we have ever seen.
We are left to contemplate the dark era, the final state of maximum entropy. This is the heat death of the universe, a state of perfect equilibrium when no more work can be performed, no more stars can ignite, and no more thoughts can be processed.
How well our
The temperature of
predictions
the
matched
entire
reality.
cosmos will hover just a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Time will continue to flow, but it will have no meaning, for there will be no change to mark its passing. The tapestry will be completely unravelled, the threads scattered so thinly across the abyss that they can never again form a pattern. The symphony will have reached its final silent note. This perspective brings us back to the scale paradox. We are small, fragile creatures inhabiting a momentary spark of light between two infinities
Some
of
interpret this
darkness.
timing as evidence
To the
of
ruthless
deliberate
machine of the
concealment.
cosmos, our existence is a statistical fluke, a temporary eddy in the rising tide of disorder. And yet, there is a profound dignity in our struggle to understand this mechanism. We are the only part of the machine that has developed the capacity to lament its own eventual shutdown. We are the witnesses who have calculated the date of our own oblivion and found the beauty in the numbers. The sentinel does not despair at the coming of the night.
Oumuamua,
Instead,
Borisov,
it
three
finds
Atlas.
meaning in the
Each
briefness
teaches
of the
something
day.
new about the possible range
The
of
fact that the
properties and
universe is
behaviors of
finite in its
interstellar
capacity
debris.
for complexity makes the current era,
How
our
improbable
era,
does a trajectory
infinitely
need to be
precious.
before we seriously
Every
consider
star we see is a
non-natural
miracle of
explanations?
balance, a temporary triumph over the void. Every word we speak and every discovery we make is a defiant act of creation in a system designed for decay. We are the inhabitants of the golden hour, the period when the light is most beautiful precisely because it is about to fade. As we look into the abyss of the far future, we do not see a tragedy, but a completed work. The clock cycles of entropy are the price of the story. Without the unwinding of the spring, there would be no motion, no growth, and no life. The darkness is the frame that gives
The
the
test
picture its
continues
depth.
as 3 Atlas
We are the
approaches
fleeting
perihelion.
consciousness of a dying god.
How we handle the
A
unknowns
moment of
may matter more.
self-reflection that occurs halfway through the great unraveling. Even when the last proton has decayed and the last black hole has evaporated into the silent mists, the fact that we were here, that we perceived the beauty of the mechanism and felt the weight of the eternal, will remain an unalterable truth, written into the very geometry of what once was. We are the memory of the universe, and though the memory must eventually fade, the act of remembering was enough to justify the entire catastrophe of existence.
Not optimal for
The
any
final
clear
evaporation
reconnaissance
of the last
objectives.
black hole marks the end of the era of gravity. For eons beyond counting, these dark titans were the only sentinels in a darkening cosmos, the final anchors of a reality that had long ago forgotten the warmth of a star. When the last one vanishes in a silent, brilliant flash of Hawking radiation, the universe undergoes a fundamental transformation. It is no longer a place of things, but a place of ghosts. The remnants of the great cosmic story, the scattered electrons, the lonely positrons, and the weary photons are now so few and so far between that they will never again interact. The tapestry is not merely unravelled, its individual threads have been cast into an infinite dark where they can never find one another. In this ultimate phase of the shutdown, we must confront the scale paradox in its most brutal form. The distances between these final particles become so vast that even light, the fastest messenger in the mechanism, cannot bridge the gap.
3 Atlas
Each
testing
particle
our
becomes its own
capabilities.
isolated universe, a solitary point of existence in an abyss that is expanding at an ever-accelerating rate. The dark energy that once merely nudged the galaxies apart now reigns supreme, stretching the fabric of space-time with such inexorable force that the very concept of a neighbourhood vanishes. This is the true meaning of the void. It is not just the absence of matter, it is the absence of the possibility of connection. We might imagine a final witness, a theoretical observer perched at the very end of time watching the last lights go out. This sentinel would not see a sudden catastrophe, but a slow, graceful descent into the eternal. The sky, which was once a riot of nebulae and star clusters, would have long since become a perfect, featureless black. The only sound in the symphony would be the low, frozen hum of the
Không có
cosmic
mối đe dọa
microwave
nào
background
đối với trái
radiation,
đất.
stretched by the expansion of the universe until its wavelength is longer than a galaxy,
Wrong direction.
until it carries no
Wrong
energy
speed.
at all. To this witness, the history of the universe,
Its
from the
mysterious
primordial fire of the
predecessor.
Big Bang to the
Oumuamua.
rise of civilizations and the birth of the first black holes, would seem like a brief, frantic dream. Yet, this perspective allows us to see the mechanism for what it truly is. The universe is a machine designed to produce complexity, but it is also a machine designed to consume it. Every thought we have ever had, every monument we have built, and every scientific law we have uncovered was a temporary diversion of the flow of entropy. We are the eddies in the stream, the brief moments of order that arise when the energy of the beginning cascades toward the equilibrium of the end. The shutdown is not a failure of the system, it is its completion. The heat death is the moment when the ledger is finally balanced, and the energy that was borrowed from the vacuum is returned to the void. This brings us to the existential pivot of our journey. If the end is total oblivion, does the middle matter? To the ruthless machine of the cosmos, the answer is a
Published
cold,
estimates
indifferent
suggest
negative.
ecliptic alignments
But we
might
are
be
not
several
the
times
machine.
more likely.
We are the part
with
of the
large
cosmos that has
uncertainties.
developed the capacity to care. We are the inhabitants of the golden hour, and our value is not measured by our duration, but by our depth. The fact that the universe produced a consciousness capable of calculating its own demise is the greatest miracle of all.
Such
We are the way the
civilizations might
cosmos
have
looks in the
motivations
mirror.
utterly
We are the
incomprehensible
way
to
the
us.
abyss contemplates
Our human
itself.
reasoning limits our understanding.
As the shutdown progresses, the very atoms that make up the memory of our existence will likely succumb to decay. Some theories suggest that even the proton, the sturdy building
Rubin's
block of all
rapid
matter,
discovery
has a
rate,
finite
6 to
lifespan.
50 interstellar objects
Over a period of
per
time
year.
so long that it defies human language, perhaps 10 to the power of 34 years or even longer, the protons will begin to dissolve. The ionospheres that were once the cores of dead stars will slowly evaporate, turning into a thin gas of leptons and radiation. If this is true, then the final state of the universe is one of perfect, terrifying symmetry. There will be no remnants of the past, no scars of the catastrophe, and no evidence that anything ever existed. The void will be as clean and as pure as it was before the first 3 minutes of creation. But there is a profound melancholic optimism to be found
The comet
even
becomes
here.
brighter, more
The fact
active,
that the universe is
sometimes
finite
even
in its
fragmented
capacity
under
for life
thermal
makes
stress.
the life that does exist infinitely more precious. Every moment of awareness is a victory over the darkness. We are the witnesses of a grand performance that will never be repeated. The symphony is beautiful precisely because it has a final note. If the music went on forever, it would eventually become noise. The silence of the shutdown is what gives the music its shape. The abyss is the frame that allows us to see the picture.
Promising to
We
revolutionize
must
the
imagine the
field.
final state of the universe as a sea of absolute stillness. The temperature will hover so close to absolute zero that the difference is meaningless. Time will continue to march forward, but with no change to mark its passage, it becomes an empty dimension. The eons will stack upon eons, and trillions of years will pass like seconds, for there is no one left to count them. The great mechanism has finally come to rest. The threads of the tapestry have been pulled so thin that they have vanished into the background. And yet, the memory of the universe persists in the very fact of its occurrence. Even when the last thought has flickered out and the last particle has decayed into the void, the truth remains that for a brief, glorious epoch, there was light, there was heat, there was the complex dance of gravity, and the intricate web of biology. There was the struggle to understand and the capacity to love. These things are not erased by the shutdown. They are the purpose of the shutdown. They are the artifacts of a universe that dared to exist in defiance of the nothingness. We are the fleeting consciousness of a dying God, a moment of self-reflection
Post-conjunction
that occurs
observations
halfway
are
through the
crucial
great
for understanding
unraveling.
solar encounter
As we look
effects.
forward to the inevitable
Specific
oblivion,
goals
we
without
should not do
requiring
so with
mid-course
fear,
corrections.
but with a sense of completion.
Ballistic
We have
targeting.
seen the mechanism, we have heard the symphony, we have been the sentinels of the light. The act of witnessing was enough. The fact that we were here,
The
that we
probability
perceived
is
the beauty of the
infinitesimal,
cosmos and
yet
felt
it
the weight of the
persists.
eternal,
Is
is
it
an
truly
unalterable
impossible,
truth,
or merely
written into the
highly
geometry
unlikely?
of what once was. The
Our
shutdown
limited
is coming,
sample size
but the
includes
story is
only
already
3
a
confirmed
masterpiece.
detections.
In the end, the silence is not a void to be feared, but the peaceful
Nothing
conclusion
in our
of the
solar
greatest
system looks quite
catastrophe
like
ever to
Oumuamua.
occur.
Its
The
unique
universe
shape.
is turning out the lights, and it is finally perfectly at rest.
Không có bằng chứng,